There's a new ad from the Republicans. John Fetterman is a socialist's dream senator. He is too radical for Pennsylvania. Watch the NRSC's latest ad.
The primary's over. Now left-wing radicals are rolling into Pennsylvania, pushing John Fetterman. Fetterman sided with socialists, backed a government takeover of healthcare, embraced parts of the Green New Deal that had cost you $50,000 a year. Fetterman said Democrats need to be ruthless. Bernie Sanders calls Fetterman an outstanding progressive. Fetterman admits he'll always vote with Democrats. In this economy, that's the last thing we need. NRSC is responsible for the content of this advertising. The primary's over.
AOC is a queen.
Now left-wing radicals are rolling.
People are just... man. Well, John definitely has the internet on his side.
Come in. Sir, we've just been informed that there's been another mass shooting.
Oh no. Come on. Okay, hand me the template. All right, so my thoughts and prayers are with the people of... Where did this happen?
Michigan.
Michigan. My heart breaks for the... How many people this time? 8 lives lost. We pray for their families, and something must be done to prevent tragedies like this. All right, so go ahead and tweet that, send it to the media, whatever you need to do. What?
So I've been thinking.
Already don't like that.
I was just thinking, are you ever going to follow through on that? The end of the template, the whole something must be done part?
Oh, God. How many times have we had this discussion?
A lot. We've had this conversation a lot. Most recent was a week ago, the last time this happened.
And what did we talk about a week ago?
I don't
remember.
No, I don't.
You see, that's what we count on. That's what the thoughts and prayers are for. We, meaning the folks in the government, are praying that the general public will be really upset for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks max. The discourse will be the same, obviously. Ban guns. You're never going to take my gun away. The Second Amendment. The fact that the Second Amendment was written back when guns took 3 minutes to reload. Mental health. Maybe we need more guns to solve this issue. And so on and so on. The same old song and dance. And as quickly as the shouting started, the shouting ends. And why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Because if you want to live in this country, you have to work. And with work comes bills. And with bills comes stress. And with stress comes...
I don't.
Mental fog. You see, we manufacture that fog. And that fog makes it so that the majority of Americans will ultimately end up...
forgetting?
Bingo! And by forcing them to forget through the system that we've created, we just sit back, relax, and keep collecting those checks from the NRA. So is this making sense now?
Yeah, you're saying it's dumb to hope for change in a country that cares more about profit than the lives of its citizens.
Well, I wouldn't put it as cynically as that, but yeah, that about sums it up.
I'll get your statement out by today.
That's a good boy. Who knows? Maybe the public's already forgotten.
Yeah.
Maybe they've already forgotten.
There you go. I mean, I can say this right now that I don't forget. I don't have brain fog. And I think one of the main, and sure, Johnny Depp Amber trial, yeah. That would be better. I think the one problem I have with that TikTok is it takes a lot of the responsibility out of our hands. It takes a lot of the responsibility out of our hands.
To a new study by the Center for Sustainability and the Global Environment in University of Wisconsin-Madison's Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies. A new study put forward by this group says that decarbonizing the U.S. energy system, which basically, in layman's terms, switching to renewable energy, can not only save the United States $600 billion a year, but it could also potentially save more than 50,000 lives per year by preventing 53,000, I think is the actual number, premature deaths every year.
Yes, I saw that in Karn. We looked at it
Deaths
yesterday.
that are in fact caused by pollution from the burning of fossil fuels. Asthma attacks, heart conditions, all kinds of other issues that arise in the human body from the burning of fossil fuels. And so they've put out this new report showing us once again that switching to renewable energy is not only great for the economy, but it is phenomenal.
The only thing about motorcycles is they're much more dangerous. I like riding on motorcycles. I've been riding on motorcycles and quads since I was, before I could even drive. They're just way more dangerous on the road. People are fucking idiots. They'll kill you. The mortality rate of riding them is I think it's 20 times higher than driving a car. It's just not worth. It's just not worth. I am not gonna go out there with all the American Karens looking at texting or all the dipshit hogs eating their McDonald's cheeseburger, not paying attention, and they're just gonna roll over me and not even notice. I need a metal cage to protect me from these idiots.
Human health here in the United States. At this point, there is no way you can spin switching to renewable energies in a bad light. It's too expensive for us.
Economically, scooters are great.
It's going to save us a ton of money, hundreds of billions of dollars. So it's too expensive argument is immediately
300
out
times
the window.
more likely? Jesus. Okay.
But what about the jobs? Cool. Now you don't work in the oil fields. You get to go work in the solar industry. You get to go work on wind turbines. We're not killing any jobs. We're just moving them from one place to another. Typically not even, in a different state. Just one industry to another. You don't have to worry about getting black lung when you're out there creating solar panels.
DFR, that's funny.
But here's the thing. Let me read this. The pollution reductions would save 53,200 premature deaths and provide $608 billion in annual benefits. The avoided deaths account for 98% of the monetary benefits. Particulate matter reductions offer further benefits, including up to 25,600 avoided non-fatal heart attacks, as well as preventing 5,000 asthma-related emergency room visits and avoiding 3.68 million days of lost work. Isn't that what Republicans want? Everybody get back to work. No sick days, no time off, none of that. Okay, well, if you want that, you're gonna have to switch to renewable energy, because this is one of the leading causes of illnesses that result in time off from work. So if y'all want people to get back to work, guess what? We're going to have to stop the burning of these fossil fuels, which, by the way, is 100% within our reach. We could do this. We as a country just lack the will to do it. And one of the big reasons we lack the will to do it is because money from the fossil fuel industry is paying the people in charge to not do anything about it. Renewable energy is a winner. Again, there is no other way to slice it, folks. We could do this. The technology exists to do this. It's the will to take action from the people in Washington, D.C., because they're being paid to not take action. That is the only thing holding us back. And every year we don't take action, we're losing $608 billion. We're losing 50,000 premature lives. We're losing 50,000 lives to premature death. That's the better way to say that. It is infuriating because we have the numbers. These groups have crunched the numbers. We know what's out there. We know what's at stake. We know what we're losing. But apparently, the money coming from fossil fuel industries is worth far more than 53,200 American lives per year. Thanks for watching, everyone. And, well, here comes the awkward part at the end of the video where I ask you to like, comment, and share.
So if you didn't catch that, $600 billion a year in benefits from switching to renewables. Christ, man. I found an essay that I think we all need to read, chat. We all need to read this together. Why are we still governed by baby boomers and the remarkably old? America's top political leaders are remarkably old. Our president will turn 80. His predecessor, who is contemplating running again, is about to turn 76. The Speaker of the House is 82. The Republican leader in the Senate is 80. And his Democratic counterpart is just comparatively sprightly 71. This is very unusual, and it's not because this cohort has just gotten its turn at the wheel, but because it has held power for an exceptionally long time. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump, whose presidency spanned more than a quarter century, were all born roughly within 2 months of one another in the summer of 1946. Nancy Pelosi has been the Democratic leader in the House for almost 20 years. Mitch McConnell has led the Senate Republicans for 15 years. Our politics has been largely in the hands of people born in the 40s or the early 50s for a generation. We should wish them all many more healthy years and be grateful for their long service, but we should also recognize the cost of their grip, not only American self-government, but even on the country's self-conception. It's often said that Americans now lack a unifying narrative, but maybe we actually have such a narrative, only it's originated around the life arc of the older baby boomers, and it just isn't serving us well anymore. Consider what the country's modern history looks like from the vantage point of an American born near the beginning of the post-war baby boom. Say you were born the same year as Mr. Clinton, Bush, or Trump in 1946. Your earliest memories began around 1950, and you recall the 50s through the eyes of a child as a symbol time of stability and wholesome values. You were a teenager in the early 60s and view that time through the lens of youthful idealism, rebellion, and growing cultural self-confidence. By the late 60s into the 70s, as a 20-something entering the adult world, you found that confidence shaken. Idealism gave way to some cynicism about the potential for change. Everything felt unsettled and the future seemed ominous, ambiguous. By the 80s, you were in your 30s and early 40s. Things had started settling down. Your work had some direction. You were building a family, and concerns about mortgage payments largely replaced an ambition to transform the world. By the 90s and your 40s and 50s, you were comfortable and confident. It was finally your generation's chance to take charge, and it looked to be working out. As a 21st century dawned, you were still near the peak of your powers and earnings, but gradually peering over the hill toward old age. You found the 2000s filled with unexpected dangers and unfamiliar forces. The world was becoming less and less your own. You reached retirement age in the 2010s. Fucking retire! Amid growing uncertainty and instability, the culture was increasingly bewildering and the economy seemed awfully insecure. The extraordinary blend of circumstances that defined the world of your youth seemed likely to be denied to your grandchildren. By now, it all feels that it's spinning out of control. Is this chaotic, transformed country around you the glittering land of your youth? This portrait of changing attitudes is, of course, stylized for effect, but it offers the broad contours of how people often look at their world in different stages of life, yet also how many Americans, and crucially not just the boomers, tend to understand our country's post-war evolution. We see our history and so ourselves through the eyes of Americans now reaching their 80s. Fucking retire. Isn't this fucking gross? Retire! You disgusting ghouls! As a history, this narrative leaves a lot to be desired, but as a kind of pocket sociology of our time, it is utterly dominant. Almost every story we now tell ourselves about our country fits into some portion of the early boomer life arc, and our politics is implicitly directed toward recapturing some part of the magic of the mid-20th century America of boomer youth. That moment when many Americans trusted their leaders and went to church, when idealistic protests seemed to drive significant social change, but you didn't need a college degree to get a union factory job that would let you support a family in the suburbs on one income, exerts an inexorable pull on our political imagination now. Parties blame each other for how far America has fallen from that standard, and politicians, old and young, left and right, implicitly promise a return to some facet of it. That time was not imaginary, but it was not so simple either, particularly for people on the margins of the powerful mainstream consensus of the age. And it was a singular period made possible by an unrepeatable set of circumstances in the wake of the Second World War. We do ourselves no favors when we treat it as the American norm, when we ignore its costs and challenges, or when we cling to its glamour by keeping the people who live that story in power as they age. Our model of social change is still rooted in mid-century cliches. Younger Americans imagine that starting a family and owning a home was much easier for previous generations than it really was. Wrong. Factually, it was very easy. Factually, it was very easy. I'm sorry that you don't like that fact, but it is. It was significantly easier. My God. They buy the broad outlines of the boomers' nostalgia and take it to mean they're inheriting a desiccated society. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. Anyway, let's keep going. Confronting injustice, they almost unthinkingly reenact the outward forms and symbols of college protests of the 60s, generally to no effect. Our implicit, no we don't. In the 60s, they had fucking Weather Underground. They had the Black Panther Party. They had Maoists. They had people bombing things. They had constant riots. They had leaders as electrifying as Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. What the fuck are you talking about? Who's our Stokely Carmichael? What the fuck are you talking about? I'll tab that. Thanks for the 10 gifted subs. Our implicit definition of social cohesion takes for granted that mid-century moment when America had not only been through a long stretch of intense mobilization and war and depression, but was also less culturally diverse than at pretty much any time before or since. Above all, though, our boomer sense of ourselves keeps us from orienting our society toward the future and contributes to a broadly shared sense of despair about our country that is neither justified nor constructive. Our politics prioritize planning for a greater national strength in the medium term, but we can hardly expect quarreling octogenarians to have that future clearly in mind. And yet, the solution is not youth politics either.
That's
Give it to Gen X, chat. The baby boomers, the generation of teachers' pets. I'd rather fucking die. Give it to millennials. Time is now. No Gen X presidents. No Gen X president. No Gen X president. No Gen X president. No Gen X president. In a new book on leadership, the former presidential advisor Dave Gergen is admirably frank in acknowledging that those born in the 40s, like himself, should make room for new leaders. But he looks for them among the youngest Americans. Millions of baby boomers and alumni of the silent generation are starting to leave the stage to be replaced by millennials and Gen Zers, he writes. Maybe I take this personally, having just turned 45, but Mr. Gergen blithely steps over Americans born in the 60s and 70s. Good. Maybe he can't quite fathom middle-aged leadership. Isn't Obama born in the 60s? You had your shot! Fuck you! Fuck you! Get out! You suck! Maybe he can't quite fathom middle-aged leadership. Yet Obama was middle-aged when he was president? What do you mean? He sucked? Many American institutions seem locked in battles between well-meaning but increasingly uncomprehending leaders in their 70s and arising generations in their 20s and early 30s, bent on culture war and politicization and seemingly unconcerned with institutional responsibilities. Unconcerned with institutional responsibilities. The reason why we have institutions of any value is because FDR created them by being a bully, and so did LBJ. The reason why we have any institutions of any fucking merit is because we bullied you, you fucking worthless lib piece of shit. Now they suck because you've been in charge too long. Our politics has the same problem, simultaneously overflowing with the vices of the young and the old. What? What vices of the young? Fuck you. Fuck you, you dumb piece of shit. Absolute moron.
Food on your family.
Maybe ideology matters more than generational identity, even though there's a loose but real correlation. It's a sign of an important thing, but not necessarily the important thing. Baby boomers, the ones that were left wing, are dead. It's the old, rich folks that are alive. You know, working class baby boomer, the blue collar baby boomers, they're dead. You don't work with your body for a living and then live to 90. It's just not how it works. I don't know, Chad, if you've ever heard this. I'm going to tell you some cold, hard truths about life. If you're tall, you're probably not making it to your 90s. If you work for your living, you're probably not making it to your 80s. Those are the truths. Big. If you beat your body up physically, it works out. I don't know why people don't know this, but these are very basic facts. My husband is 6'3". He's not going to make it that long. More body mass equates with more probability of cancer cells developing and ultimately killing you. Exactly. What if I smoke? Can I make it past 50? Maybe. Unlikely, though. Not making it retirement age.
Respect.
How do you get shorter? Is there leg shortening surgery? I'm sure there is. Just enjoy your time in the sun, because you'll be living in my shade for decades. You're not so tall anymore when you're flat on your back, dead. Huh, tallies. We'll get our revenge. We'll get our revenge. Short kings will rule. I'm just fucking with you. Anyway, let's keep going. And so falling into debates between people who behave as though the world will end tomorrow and those who think it started yesterday, the vacuum of middle-aged leadership is palpable. Even our vice president, Kamala Harris, is a rudderless neoliberal clown. She couldn't motivate two people to coordinate rowing a rowboat. Kamala Harris is a feckless idiot and a total dipshit. If you try to put her hand in her government in her hands, she'll spend more time in focus groups than speeches. She's a fucking nothing. She's a wet fart. Get out of here. Yet they have not broken through as defining cultural figures and political forces. They have not made this moment their own. Found a way to loosen the grip of the post-war generation on the nation's political imagination. Generational analysis are unavoidably sweeping and crude, and no one is simply a product of a birth cohort. I mean, I would say that the thing is, the people who were born in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, they have lead poisoning in their brains. You were in an era of a miasma of lead. I mean, this is just a fact. I'm 6'3", 38 years old and overweight. Well, get in shape. But in our frenzied era, it's worth looking for potential sources of stability and considering not only what we have too much of in America that should want to demolish and be rid of, but also what we do not have enough of and should want to build up. We lack grounded, level-headed, future-oriented leaders. Like it or not, that means we need a more middle-aged politics and culture. In American Enterprise Institute? Of course he loves Kamala. Kamala. Incredible. I just wanted to laugh at that article, chat. Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap